Hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn social psychology today. Why do people conform? And after we've done it, we're gonna do tiptoe yoga. And if you participate in the tiptoe yoga, then it's very honest. Why do people conform? These two studies demonstrate that people conform for two very different reasons: informational and normative. Through informational influence, people conform because they want to be correct in their judgments and they assume that others who agree on something must be right. Okay, in Cherie's autokinetic task, as in other ambiguous situations, it is thus natural to assume that 4 eyes are better than 2. So it was the previous example of Mustafa Sharif. The people were seeing a light dot, which was then sawn in a dark room, and they were then asked how far that light dot would be moving. And when they were asked alone, they said a lot or a little, whatever. They stayed with their argumentation. And if other persons were as well asked or something, and they all said something else, they started to adjust what this group was saying. So they said what the other people were saying, basically was the experiment. And they said then it is moving too because all the other people and who had said the answer before them had said it is moving 2 inches and not what they saw. And here said, one is information influence, one idea why that is the case or that it is happening is informational influence. They want to be correct and they assume that the other 5 people who said it are 2 inches light difference, they must be right. And they're saying the same thing. Normative influence, however, leads people to conform because they fear the negative consequences of appearing deviant. Wanting to be accepted, we're talking in general about human beings, often avoid behaving in ways that make us stick out like a sore thumb. To be sure, people like to think of themselves as unique, but disagreement and conflict can be stressful. It's easy to see why. Research shows that individuals who stray from the group's norm are often disliked, rejected, ridiculed, and laughed at, especially when the group needs to reach a consensus. Okay, we're saying, so the first reason is so many people said that they are probably right, so the person is adjusting their own estimation to one of the other ones because so many people said that probably the person who is the one person themselves is probably the one who is wrong and all the other one have to be true. It has so much more people. The other reason is normative influence. They want to fit in because if they would be different to the other people, if they would disagree, then that could cause them to be in a conflict or stressful situation. They could be disliked, rejected, ridiculed, or laughed at. In particular, if a group is under pressure or needs to reach a consensus. The saying, to get along, go along, may seem distasteful, but it refers to the real fact of social life. So the saying there exists, the saying, to get along, go along, and I think that means if a person wants to get through the life without being disliked, rejected, ridiculed, or laughed at, they have to go along with what the other people are doing. Unusually, informational and normative influences operate jointly. Okay, unusually. No, usually. That's why I didn't understand the word. Usually. So usually the informational and normative influences operate jointly. So oftentimes it is something of 5 people said the dot have moved a little 5 inches to the side. Probably I just saw something wrong. The other people, these are so many more people, probably they are right. And I'm the only one who's seeing it. As a person that may be thinking, and the other reason they want to fit in, to get along. Usually, so they're going along, they're jointly, even some of Ash's, so it was another person, Solomon Ash, similar experiment, even some of Solomon Ash's subjects admitted that they came to agree with their group's erroneous judgment. Still, the distinction between the two types of influences is important not just for understanding why people conform, but because they produce different types of conformity, private and public. Okay, they're saying that people, but let's maybe lead on what they're actually saying, that people have a different conformity in their private life and in their public life. Let's see, or maybe they explain what we mean with it. Like beauty, conformity may be skin deep or it may penetrate beneath the surface. Private conformity, also called true acceptance or conversion, describes those instances in which others cause us, so again human beings in general, to change not only our overt behavior but our minds as well. To conform at this level is to be truly persuaded that others are correct. In contrast, public conformity, sometimes called compliance, a term that is used later in this chapter to describe a different form of influence, refers to a superficial change in behavior. People often respond to normative pressure by pretending to agree even when privately they don't. Or they do not. This often happens when we, again human beings in general, want to curry favors with others. The politician who tells constituents whatever they want to hear is a case in point. Let's take one look in looking who has written this book. Sharon S. Bremen, Soul and Kesson. But I want to know the country because we're talking about politics a little bit. It was some examples from the United States of America. It is State University of New York at Binghamton. No, Binghamton sounds British, but New York sounds American. So I don't know it. Houghton Mifflin Company, Boston, Toronto, that sounds Canadian. Geneva in Illinois, that is America. Palo Alto, I don't know where that is. And Princeton, New Jersey, that is also America. Printed in the United States of America. Library of Congress Catalog Card number 9576931. Okay, it seems to be American. It seems to be American. Okay, they are saying, politicians who are telling the people what we want to hear. What we mean with that would be an outwardly they are saying they are following that idea, but inwardly maybe in private they're having another idea. I think it's pretty clear what we mean. Private conformity means to also believe the things when told in private, if it's not just to not be by the other group is seen and then ridiculed, rejected, disliked or laughed at, but it is how to actually believe, and just public conformity means just for the outside world, but actually not believing that. How you might be wondering, can social psychologists even tell the difference between the private and the public conformist? After all, both exhibit the same change in their observable behavior. The difference is that compared to the individual who merely acquiesces in public, I don't know what the word means, but I know what the sentence means, a person who is truly persuaded maintains that change even when others are out of the picture. When this distinction is applied to Cherif's and Ash's research, the results came out as expected. At the end of the study, Cherif retested subjects alone and found that their estimates continued to reflect the norm previously established in the group, even among subjects who were retested a full year after the experiment. In contrast, when Solomon Ashes had subjects write down their answer privately, the level of conformity dropped sharply. Okay, the experiments seem actually to be differently. We read them in the previous part. So we're saying, so the basic distinction, maybe one can think about it if it is actually true or not. The basic distinction is that we're continuing that even if now one of the group is then there, they are continuing that then on their own. If it is private conformity. Now, in the one example, in Cherif's, in Mustafa Cherif, that was the light point, and in Solomon Ash's example, where's the name written? There was asked which line is the same length as another one, but I don't know why not one people stayed with the new normity, conformity, and the other not. So there seems to be a difference in it. We're going to go back and we try to understand it, and we're going to go back in the previous part to the previous chapters. We're going to read a bit on it, and we're going to go back and reread again, knowing what was written in the successive chapters. So some people in the one experiment continue to have a belief. I don't really know how it would now work, because we get new examples to make the test, whatever. We understand that there is difference between private and public conformity. We understand what they want to tell us. What exactly now is different with experiment, we try to find out later. Table 9.1, the top here one, summarizes the comparison of Cherif's and Ash's studies and the depths of social influence they demonstrate. Looking at this table, you can see that the difficulty of the task is crucial. So let's look. Experimental task that is a Cherif's ambiguous autokinetic effect. So that was the light point switching, and the people have to say how much it has switched or gone to the side. And the other one was Ash's simple line judgment. We should just say which line has the same length, A, B, or C, as the one to compare with. And the A and C were completely off, and B fitted exactly. So, primary effect of group, informational influence. In the first experiment, where people were in the darkness, they said there that because people were in the darkness, that it is assumed that they instinctively acted like they were in the darkness, they're acting like the other people of the group. They basically need help, and they're looking, what did the other people say? So just informational influence. Just 5 people said it's so much to the side, so let's go along with it. Why should... So just more people, 4 pairs of eyes see more than 1 pair of eyes. And that is when private acceptance, do we say. So we're saying that is when continued even completely. So even in private, even if no one is looking. Now, after simple line judgments, so just saying A, B, or C longer, that was a normative influence. The people followed along because the 4 people asked before, or 6 people asked before them, said all it is line C, even though C was obviously wrong, and the people followed along to fit into the group. And that was in public conformity, because the people later on directly continued. Do they argue at that place here that informational influence is then continued further in private? Do we argue that as a basic thing, or do they say just in this one experiment? And is that even a conclusion possible to draw from these experiments? Maybe. Let's read about. We have a long more before the chapter ends. Now, when looking at this table, you can see that the difficulty of a task is crucial. When reality cannot easily be validated by physical evidence, as in the autokinetic situations of a light dot, people turn to others for information and conform because they are truly persuaded by that information. When reality is clear, however, the cost of dissent becomes a major issue. As Solomon Asch found, it can be difficult to depart too much from others even when you know that they, not you, are wrong. So you play along. Privately, you don't change your mind, but you nod your head in agreement anyway. So we're arguing here. I don't know if it is just an example here drawn for a bigger argument, there's more profound evidence for it, that is usually the case, or if what we're saying here is solely based on this experiment, which would be, as I see it, a bit fast jumping to conclusion, saying that if it is made under pressure, the people think when they conform with the other people because of the information, because they are probably right, they are continuing with that belief also onwards. If they know that the other people are wrong and they know they just behave with the other people as the other people say it to fit into the group, they're not following along. Now, I want to just say in that case that could be a bit jump too fast to conclusions, and also human lives changing don't depend on a single experiment. So what if a repetitive amount of normative influence, repetitive fitting in just for the group, leads to then fitting into the group also in private? So I think it's a bit too fast to jump to that conclusion based on these things. Maybe they know more. We will continue the next part with more. If you were here for social psychology, you can go directly to the next part of social psychology, where we will read on. If you stay here and participate in our short, we just have 2 minutes. Tiptoe yoga, wenn es wird, your desk. Have your feet standing together. Breathe into the arms up and come up on the tiptoes. Out and down. In and up. Out and down. In and up. Out up to the side. In and up. Out of the other side. In and up. Out onto the side, make an inch of space between the feet, in and up. Out and sink a bit down. In and up. Out onto the other side. In and up. Out and down. Come always with a weight to the big toes. In and up. Out and down. In and up. Out and sink down. This can go to the knees. In and up. Out and down. In and up. Out and down. One foot points to the outside, the other one in front. Breathe in the arms up. Out, bend the front leg, come up on the tiptoes. In, reach in front. Out and back. In, straighten the front leg. Out and down. Middle, down. Change the position of the feet. Breathe in. Out, bend the front leg. Come up on the tiptoes. Breathe in, reach in front. Out and back. Breathe in, straighten the front leg. Out and down. Foot down. have feet standing together, breathe in the arms up, out and down. Bend the right leg, stretch the left one, knee change, stretch the right one, middle, together. Breathe in, and out comes slowly the foot round back up, make it a top, backward shoulder out, in the arms up, bring the hands to touch and up and down. That was our shortened standing tiptoe yoga. I thank you very much, and next time.